Howdy, we're going to try a little experiment here. My GPS says I got about 40 minutes to my destination, so I'll see if I can get this video done before I pull into the driveway. Anyhow, this topic is something I spoke about before, but it bears repeating. This is basically some prepper information, how to stay safe when bad things happen, whether it's nature caused, human caused, wartime, whatever. Even a bad snowstorm. Give you an example. One of the things I'm talking about is I used to live up in Washington, and I tend to live in rural areas. We had a really heavy snow and ice storm, and the mountain that I lived on lost power. And if you've never experienced a power outage, especially one that's system-wide, you don't know what you're missing. The gas stations were closed, so you couldn't get gas. Stores were closed, couldn't buy anything to eat. All the signals were out. They weren't flashing. I mean, they were out. All the street lights were out. It was overcast, so you got no ambient light from the sky, from the moon, the stars, whatever. It was pitch black. I put my hand in front of my face when I got out of my car. I couldn't see my hand. When I got home, I had to put my headlights on the front door so I could actually find my front door. But anyhow, that lasted probably about close to 24 hours. You know, you get home, you don't have any heat, you don't have any way to cook, because the place I was living at was electric. So yeah, I mean, it was inconvenient. No TV, nothing like that. But we need to prepare for things like that. If it's for an hour, 24 hours, or for weeks, we need to do things so that we can survive. People think, well, you know, when you're out of power, I've got a gas stove and gas heater and all that. Well,
2 miles, keep left.
Sorry about that. That's my girlfriend telling me where to go. Anyhow, if you think about it, like gasoline, it takes electricity to pump that into your car. You know, natural gas, things like that. Probably there's some pressurizing pumps along the system to get it to your house. Water, you know, how long can you go without water, without flushing your toilet, taking a shower? Water for food, things like that. Electricity affects that as well, or lack of electricity. Do you have things in your car that, in case there's something bad happening, you know, like for instance, if you're going over a pass somewhere and it snows and the pass is closed down and you're stuck there, you might be there overnight, you might be there for an hour. You know, you people that have the EVs, what are you going to do? You know, there's been stories winter after winter how those things just die. You know, you can't have a AAA truck come up and charge your battery for you like you can with gas, where you can put some gas in to get you to the next stop. Do you have things
Use
like
the left 2 lanes to keep left.
Do you have blankets in your car? Do you have extra water in case you need some water? Do you have toiletries, you know, if you have to go hike in the woods and do your business, that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about anything major. I'm talking about stuff you can put in for a small bag or a box you can throw in your car.
Keep left.
But think about food. You know, people say, I've got this stuff you
In
can buy.
about 17 miles, take exit 262 to merge onto State Route 69 north toward Prescott.
When I was back in the day, I don't know if they still do, but when we did the whole COVID thing, places like Costco were selling these buckets that you could buy that had freeze-dried food in it, which is great. I mean, it's nice because you don't need electricity to refrigerate it or freeze it, anything like that, because that's another thing you think about. You lose electricity long enough, everything in refrigerator and freezer is going to go bad. You're going to throw it out. You're not going to eat it. Again, you may not be able to cook. You know, you might want to keep on hand one of those camping stoves that use propane, or go old school, go Coleman, where you actually had the white gas. You had a put pressure in there to pump it in there. That was a fun time. But anyhow, you might want to keep some of that around. But I'm sure you've heard of MREs. If you're in the military, I'm sure you definitely know what an MRE is. Meals ready to eat. You want to have things that you do not need to cook. You do not need to add water to. You do not need to refrigerate or freeze. Things like packages or cans of tuna or deviled ham, things like that. Peanut butter. Anything that's going to give you some nutrition, some energy. I'm not talking about the healthiest food in the world. I'm just talking about survival. You want to have that on hand. People will buy a lot of food, for those kind of situations and throw them in a room or a closet and forget about it. You need to rotate your stock because nothing lasts forever. I just went through my house and went through the pantry not too long ago and started looking at stuff we haven't touched, and there was stuff that was way past the expiration date, so it all got tossed and restocked. So you need to rotate your food. Now, if I'm not making a lot of sense here, I am driving, but anyhow, I'm trying to give you some information that you can take notes on and maybe start working on. Am I perfect in this regard? No. We all can do better. So yeah, food. Get yourself one of those weather radios or emergency radios that you can get the bands to where, you can get news or get the weather or whatever. Especially ones that don't require you to plug in. I think there's some that have a crank on it. You can use that. Maybe get reports of what's going on in your area. See if there's any road closures and there's any activity going on you want to avoid. Any war zones, like living up in the Seattle area. I was there when they had a snow bomb. They didn't call it that back then, but I left work early. Got back to my residence before it started snowing, but it snowed so much that it was like Carmageddon. There were bridges and roads that were closed because people got stuck in the snow. They ran out of gas. That's another issue I'm going to bring up here in a second. And it completely blocked roads up there. I mean, it was a mess. It took several days to get all those dead cars off the roads and open up the roads again. So here's another thing besides heeding warnings. If you hear from the weather people that something really bad's coming, get to someplace safe, like home if you can. Leave early. Close up early if you have your own shop. Sorry, I gotta go. Get home. So that's another thing. When you suspect anything that's coming down the path, let me back up a little bit. Even on a regular good day, I would recommend that you keep your gas tank at least half full. Okay? Learned that again and again in my lifetime. I used to drive school bus way back in the day, and that's what they required us to do because you never know. You may have to go pick up the football team, someone who is going to pick it up. That bus broke down. You got to go up there, and you don't have time to go get fuel, but you have enough to get that round trip done. Same thing with your personal vehicles. Like what's going on now in the Middle East. When the prices of gas were shooting up quickly, I was topping off every day because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's very easy for fuel to suddenly disappear. If you're old enough, you'll probably remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, I think it was late 70s. We had a couple energy crises. We had the Enron thing where we had electricity shortages. That was back in the 90s, I think. I have my 2 cents, my personal opinions about what all that was about. But the thing is that there were shortages. And back in the gas issues, depending on what you had on your license plate, whether you were able to get gas or not. It was like odd or even days, last car in line. I had a little 77 Honda Civic, so that thing, sipped gasoline. But if I had the time on the day I could get gasoline, I definitely would top it off because I wanted to get around. The people driving these big gas guzzlers and RVs, they can never fill up all the way. So yeah, when it gets really bad, top off frequently, maybe keeping it 3/4 full at all times. Because the thing is, if you can't get gas and you need to get around, what are you going to do? You're not gonna hitchhike or walk to these places. You might be able to bicycle to some places, but you're going to need transportation. So definitely keep your car in good shape. Keep it tuned up, serviced, good tires, the whole bit, because you just never know what's going to happen. Tomorrow is a different day. Okay, so we talked about fuel. Let's talk about electrical stuff. Okay, if you're able to, if you're either got the means, I would highly recommend things like solar, not necessarily for the green issue with that. If you can afford it, also batteries, the solar batteries that people can use where, you can charge up during the daytime when it's sunny. Talking about Seattle, it's almost never sunny there on most years. But you could charge up those batteries so you have power at night. Think about all the things that you need, like not only refrigeration and air conditioning and heating, but also for medical equipment, CPAPs, things like that. You can buy things where you can plug your machines in, batteries that will convert to DC battery to AC, where you can run those machines. You might want to consider something like that. Also, your batteries, rechargeables. Keep everything that's rechargeable on the charger as much as possible. I know it's hard on the battery. You can always buy a new one. But you want to have a full charge, so in case the power does go out, you can still use it, whether it's radios, your phones, your tablets, your laptops, your toothbrushes, whatever. Keep them charged up. Extra batteries, like I said before, have those radios to where you can listen to the weather or emergency broadcast, things like that, so you know what's going on. Also, if you can find some local prepper communities, they'll talk about two-way radios, whether it's walkie-talkies, which are just good for your neighborhood, or stronger radios for farther away. Buy those. Get trained. Get on I forget what it's called, but anyhow, it's a group where they test that out. Once a week. They go through and talk about anything going on locally, and they also do a test on your radios, how to talk to people. It does not require a license to listen. Some bands, some radio level of requirements will require a license. Like I have a license for my basic radio, so I can broadcast. But even if you don't have a license to legally use the radio for transmitting, you can leave it on for receiving information. That's completely free, completely legal, the whole bit. What else? Oh, the batteries for the radios. A lot of those radios usually have exchanging or swapping out. You can swap out a battery and put another one on there. So have some backup batteries. Keep them charged. After so many years or whatever, or how many hours of use, you might have to replace them completely. But have some communication, because your phones will not work if you lose power. Some towers will have battery backup, some will have generators that can be used, but it'll be impacted greatly. If you have ever lost power in an area or lost your cable in an area, nowadays with smartphones and cellular setups for laptops, things like that, hotspots, those will also be impacted if you're trying to get something on the internet, because everybody will fail over onto their phones and start using that. How do I know? I've been through several outages like that, to where suddenly I couldn't even look up the news on my phone because they just hammered that cellular system. Let's get back to power again. Things like emergency generators. There's generators you can have that use natural gas or propane. I don't know if they can be switched over manually by the end user, or that comes out of the factory like that. I've never really researched that, but you can run it off that. They even have, small diesel generators, small gasoline generators. Have those handy if you can. Like I said, we're not all either in a position to where we can get that stuff financially, or just restrictions of where we are. Have that extra power. What else? Oh, your electronics. So they talk about EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Anyhow, it could be from a nuclear bomb, or it could be from other things to where it'll put out an EMP like that. I mean, even the sun does that now and then, not to the point to where it permanently knocks out our communications or electronics, but it can affect radio transmissions, cell transmissions, things like that. So stuff that's really important, like your two-way radio or anything else, when you're not using it, put it in what's called a Faraday bag or Faraday cage. What that is, basically, it protects the electronics from strong electromagnetic interference. The downside is while it's in that bag, you can't use it because it cuts out the radio waves as well. So, yeah, have some backups, have those sealed up really well so you don't lose it. What else? Everything else has electronics in it. I mean, everything's smart now. Your appliances in your kitchen, your washer, dryer, everything, like your TV, smart TV, it's got a lot of electronics in it. So anything that's going to be exposed to that high intensity radiation is going to be dead. Like, throw it away, put it in the garbage can, dead. It's not going to be replaceable.
2 miles, take exit 262 to merge onto State Route 69 North toward Prescott.
The same thing with your car or your motorcycle. I can't remember what date it is. I think it's in either the late 70s or early 80s. Don't ask me about that. I don't remember. But if you have newer cars and there's an EMP, that car's dead. It is now just a pile of metal. All the little electronics in it, your radio, the computers, all that will be fried. It will not be working. Same thing with motorcycles nowadays. They're all electronic. So, some people say get an old vehicle. Go get a working pickup truck from the 1970s, and that'll start right up. As long as it has gas and it's able to run, it'll start up because it's not electronic. It's a different technology. Same thing with motorcycles. Go out to your garage and pull out the starter kick pedal and start up your chopper. Maybe you can get from point A to point B. Things to consider. Okay, we did Faraday bags. Let's talk about food. We talked about food, water. Have extra water, not those little bottles you get from the grocery store or Costco. I'm talking about the big 5-gallon jugs that you have to refill. I don't remember what the calculation is, how many gallons a day per person in your house you need, but you can look that up. It's open information on the internet.
For about 20 miles, continue straight.
You want to have a bare minimum of water, either a water cooler or a dispenser. Water cooler, like I said, if you lose electricity, that's not going to work. But it may still, you still could use it as a dispenser. And rotate that water, rotate those jugs through like I do. I go fill up a bottle, put it at the end of the line, and then take the next older one and put it on my dispenser. You're going to need water. You're going to need water sooner than you need food. So you got to have enough water. And think about it, if there's water just to drink, there's water to clean things, like if you have any, we're getting into first aid kits now. You want to be able to clean wounds, clean things, clean dishes. brush your teeth, take a bath, take a shower, whatever, you're going to need extra water for that. And the water system may be down. You go to the bathroom and turn on the faucet and nothing comes out, or just muddy water comes out. So you're going to need some water. What else? Oh, we're getting into the first aid situation. Go somewhere and get trained. If you go to a prepper group, they usually have higher level first aid training. Like I went to a class years ago called Stop the Bleed. Whether it's a gunshot wound or a traffic accident, you need to learn how to use a tourniquet, how to stop the bleeding so they live long enough so they can get to the hospital and get treated. So you need something that's on your person if you are able to. Have one in your car, have it at your home, have several at your work, have several at your church. Hopefully you don't have to ever use it, but it's better to have something like that and never have to use it as opposed to need it and not have it. So yeah, those are available commercially, through things like Amazon, or you can get it through some other people that are organizations that have a lot of prep and med kits available. And learn how to use it. Just don't have it. Do you know how to apply a tourniquet? Excuse me. Do you know how to apply the paddles if someone's having a heart attack? Those things are pretty autonomous now. You just need to follow the instructions. They'll tell you what to do. I've taken training in that, but it's almost like you don't need training. You just need to have that device handy. I think every home should have it. Every office should have it. Every church should have it. Every grocery store should have them. The chance of surviving a heart attack, your heart stopping, without one of those, even with CPR training and the like, is so low. That really increases chances of survival, and that's what it's all about, is survival. All right, see if there's anything I left out. We got, self-defense, weapons. There's training. Just about everywhere you go, there's gun shops that have training at different levels. Where I live in Arizona, we have several high-end training facilities. Are you going to pay for it? Yes, you are. But the better you get at it, the more likely you are to be able to live. If you're comfortable with that. The thing is that a lot of people aren't comfortable around guns. I never used to be, but I am now. They don't bother me. But I live in a rural area, and I see people walking around the grocery store with a 9mm on their hip. So it's common here. Whatever you get, just don't stick it in the corner somewhere or in the closet. Get trained, practice. If you haven't been to the range for a while, go out and get a refresher course or your concealed weapons permit course. Find out what the legality is. Make sure you're covered legally if you ever have to use your weapon. But definitely, if you buy anything, whether it's a radio, whether it's a Coleman stove to cook with, make sure you know how to use it, because when what hits the fan, that's too late to start learning. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Anything else off the top of my head? I've got 16 minutes to go here. Security at home. It's this is electronic, so yeah, you might need a battery backup, but security cameras around your home so you can know what's coming. You can also record, so if someone is busting into your house, it's going to be recorded, things like that. Defensive safety driving for both your car and motorcycle. You can take more training on that so that if something happens, you can avoid it. I heard recently one of my former co-workers was riding his motorcycle home, and a wild animal crossed his path, and he's got a ton of broken ribs, broken hip, or broken back, I think. He's just a mess. But, there's no guarantee if you have that training, you're going to be able to avoid every situation. But who knows? I don't know that situation. Maybe there was something that was avoidable. I don't know. But do that. Health. If you take any kind of medication, make sure you're stocked up. Even if you don't need it and it's due for refill it. 2 reasons. One is that if you know what hits the fan, if power goes out, you may not get a refill. You might be down to your last 2 pills and you can't get anything for a month or 90 days. Keep your medication up. That helps you survive. If you need it to live, get it. Also, if everything falls apart, let's talk about commerce now. Talk about money. You know, you may not be able to buy stuff at the store. That's one of the reasons you want to stock up on supplies, is because you can barter things. You know, your neighbor may have something you need and you have something he needs, and you can trade. Same thing with skills. You know, if we're no longer in a money economy, you know, you can help each other out. You know, you can mow your neighbor's lawn and they'll wash your car, or, you know, repair something like a broken window, whatever. I mean, got to think laterally, so that, you know, if something happens, there's a way to solve problems. Speaking of money, you know, we're all using plastic now. Very little cash is being used. There's still talk that we're going to go to digital currency for the United States. What's digital? It's electronic, right? Well, if the power's down, you're not going to be able to go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread with your card that is now not usable because the POS system is not up. So stock up on some cash and lock it up someplace in your house or wherever you can put it. Because initially, when there's a bad thing, people will still use cash. People understand cash. Gold and silver, it's good to store wealth, but the thing is most people do not understand the concept of what's a real gold coin, or, you know, what's its value. You know, you might go to Safeway and try to buy something with a handful of silver coins. You're not going to get far. Have it, it's a good thing to have, but cash is available. And again, the bartering, the parallel economy concept, keep that in mind. That's another way to get through. Let's see what else. If you can, you know, store up some water to live, but also fuel. You know, I lived in places to where we used propane to heat the house and things like that. Had a tank that was just big enough for that. One winter came, I ran out of propane, so I had no heat other than a little electric heater, which cost me an arm and a leg when I got that bill. So stock up. If you have, if you're rural and you have enough property where you can have larger tanks, stock up on your fuel for your vehicles, whether it's diesel or gasoline. If you have the ability, have some gas tank, you know, little gas tanks in your garage or wherever you need to store them. You know, you might just be out of gas for a day, and that'll get you to the gas station or get you to work that one day. So anyhow, okay, I got 10 minutes left. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's what happens when you go without a script or without notes. Your health, getting back to that. Medication, yes. Making sure you've got all your equipment. If you wear a CPAP or you wear some other machine like an oxygen machine, make sure you got that stocked up, whether you need extra oxygen bottles or you need to refresh the batteries, whatever, in your oxygen generator, things like that. Your health in general, you know, exercise, eat right, you know, so you're more likely to survive a bad situation when you're healthy than if you're not. And a lot of us, you know, as we get older, we start getting health problems. That's why I said keep your medication up. Stay hydrated.
In about 10 miles, turn right onto East Bradshaw Mountain Road.
There you go. I got 10 miles in 10 minutes. All right. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you're already doing stuff like this, just remember we can always do better. Think about things you can do to improve your situation if there's an emergency. Just remember my story about people not being able to get home in Seattle because it snows. I don't know where you live, you know, what kind of weird weather you have. We all have weird weather of one thing or another. You know, in Arizona we have monsoons. We can have a flash flood. You can be driving down a road dry, and next thing you know, you can't cross a bridge because it's flooded, and that can happen within minutes. So things happen. California, West Coast, earthquakes. Prepare for earthquakes. Well, one last thing, and then I'm going to go and wrap it up. I forgot what they call it. Have a contact list. You want to be able to contact a friend or relative outside of your area, outside of your state, because calling back and forth in a bad situation, in a zone that's just been impacted, you're not going to be able to call your neighbor because all those lines are going to get trunked up. But you can maybe call out of the area, and then they can call someone else to let them know that you're okay or your situation. So have friends and relatives you can contact and practice that, just like with the radios. You know, once a month, once a quarter, just say, hey, I'm just calling to test to make sure we still have this phone number right. You know, every little bit helps. I guess that's all for now. Just be safe, plan for the worst, enjoy the best. And we can always do better, like I said. You know, you may think you're all prepared, you got a room full of supplies. There's probably something else you can do to make things even better if you can, if it's within your means. Like I said, when it comes to power, you know, the batteries for the solar panels, you know, it's not cheap, but there's things you can do, like stocking up on your medications. All right. Anyhow, Donald Henderson here. Just want to make sure you guys are staying safe. I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself.